Greetings to all the Web3 enthusiasts. This is Max speaking, and we are back after a short vacation. So we continue the series of interview with the Web3 whales, and today I'm honored to host an interview with Rashan Colbert from dYdX. Hi, Rashan. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Likewise, thank you. So for our viewers, since it's your first time at our YouTube, could you briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. So yeah, I'm Rashan Colbert. I'm the head of policy at dYdX Trading. I've been in this role for a little bit over a year and a half. The 7 years before this, I spent working on Capitol Hill, working on legislation, specifically covering technology, telecommunications issues. I also got to work on a lot of crypto stuff since my boss, Senator Cory Booker, was is still on the Senate Agriculture Committee, which in the United States oversees the CFTC and thus crypto. So yeah, I'm based in Washington D.C. I live there with my wife, and I get up to New York and a lot, and I'm in San Francisco today, dYdX offices.
Okay, cool. So let's get our interview going. I have a bunch of questions prepared as always, and I believe this interview will be insightful for everyone. So let's go. The first question is just very general, and for many it seems to be quite obvious, but I think we have to ask it. So could you introduce dYdX? We believe it's the first decentralized derivatives exchange in the industry. What's your view on it?
Yeah, so yeah, interesting. dYdX Trading, the firm I'm part of that works on open source software for dYdX, just celebrated its seventh birthday. So that's pretty much as OG as it gets in DeFi.
Real G.
But yeah, but dYdX is DeFi's pro trading platform. It's one of the best places in the world to trade crypto derivatives called perpetuals. Specifically, dYdX is a fully decentralized exchange. It's a standalone app chain within the Cosmos ecosystem, transitioning from an L2 to an L1 in fall 2023. So it's a standalone app chain, and transitioning to that helps us execute on one of our core beliefs, right? Decentralization, full decentralization. So it also enables us to increase speed and ease of use for our traders. So the protocol's gone through several different iterations over time. And like I said, it used to be an L2. And yeah, that's dYdX in a nutshell.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for the introduction, and let's move on. The next question is, why do you think the US made a 180 flip on the cryptos are securities narrative? Are they probably the new way to solve the national debt problem or something?
Yeah. So I think the way that I would characterize it is that the U.S. regulatory apparatus, right, is still very much at odds with itself over how it will legally classify whether different tokens are securities or commodities. Fortunately, we have seen significant progress on probably the two most important tokens, Bitcoin and Ether, this year. So the Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC, whom the US's key financial regulators, actually approved the listing of exchange traded products, specifically ETFs, earlier this year for Bitcoin and ETH. And this was a huge step forward, but it essentially came under duress. The courts basically gave the commission no option but to approve them. And so there's still a lot of controversy in the legislative arena. So Congress in the United States, which actually makes the laws, right, votes on, passes legislation, is still debating how they're going to deal with this. So there's several pieces of legislation being debated right now that propose different schemes for how to decide which tokens can be called a security or commodity. There's a bill called the Financial Innovation Technology for the 21st Century Act, which has one scheme to do it. There is a bill kind of being developed in the Senate Agriculture Committee, which has another way to do it. And there's also legislation proposed by Senators Lummis and Gillibrand responsible Financial Innovation Act that has yet another way to determine what is a security, what is a commodity, and how they'll trade on the secondary market. So I think that there's been progress, like I said, on Bitcoin and ETH, but it's still limited. And I think that there's going to be a lot of work ahead before we really figure out what exactly is going to be a security or commodity. And I think that that's unfortunate. It's still slowing down development. And so I think that it'll be a little while before the US completely has that question answered.
Okay, got it. Thanks. Pretty much detailed. Let's move on to the next question. I think this one is the most interesting for me personally. So the European European MiCA regulation seems like a step in the direction of total on-chain control. Do you think decentralized exchanges will have to KYC their users?
Yeah, that's a tough question, and I think if I had the real answer, I'd be doing really well for myself. But I think that we're definitely seeing we're seeing the EU. Obviously, they've moved a lot faster than the US has as far as solidifying regulation. Also, countries in Asia that in the Middle East that are actually much farther ahead than the United States is, and so that's unfortunate. Being where a lot of the technology is still built. That's where I am. It's where dYdX is, Uniswap is, a number of other folks in DeFi. And so I do think that on-chain control is going to be really, really important for being able to keep DeFi open. And so say like in dYdX, we've made a lot of efforts, as I said, to move to an app chain and to decentralize as many components, all the components of the ecosystem, so that it can be governed by the users, not centralized in our hands or in anyone else's hands. I think that, but generally, I think that it's hard to see what the final result will be over time, whether there will be KYC mandated to use crypto. I really hope not. That'd be a failure for many people in the crypto ecosystem if that were the case. But I do think that there are signs of good progress. Like I mentioned that bill a little earlier, the FIT21, Financial Innovation Technology Act, right? And it has language within it, exemption from the legislation for what they call decentralized finance activities, right? So this is things like developing open source software for blockchains, running a node, validating transactions, and of course, like actually interacting with or training on a blockchain. And so these activities are exempt from the legislation as proposed. I think that that's a great step forward, and most other pieces of legislation being proposed also have similar language that will carve out that type of activity. And so keeping things decentralized will keep them out of the same regulatory snare as centralized activities. So I think it is definitely going to be the case in the United States that being decentralized is going to be really critical. And at least for now, that will enable people to not have to be KYC'd in order to use blockchains.
Okay, thank you. Well, anyway, the future, as usually, will show how it goes. Let's continue about talking about regulations. And next question is that in the terms of use, dYdX states, dYdX is not registered or licensed by any regulatory agency or authority. Does it make your relations with regulatory authorities easier or harder, or any other variants?
Yeah, no, interesting. Good question for sure. That's right. dYdX isn't licensed or registered by a regulator, but that doesn't mean we don't make every effort to comply with the law. There isn't a pathway for us, say, in the United States, to provide our product, non-custodial perps, to US users. So we block the US, right? We also block Canada. and a few other countries, but it's generally pretty open. I think that relationship-wise, that does make it easier in some ways. Uh, First, I think we don't have all that much to talk about as far as like our actual users and how they're using the platform, as far as regular U.S. regulators and U.S. users. But in a broader way, we do advocate on behalf of the DeFi community to policymakers about the best ways to regulate crypto and DeFi, in particular in the future. So not being able to serve U.S. customers actually draws a pretty sharp picture about the state of crypto in the U.S. today, right? So I think that crypto innovation life cycle is kind of like the internet. So of course, it's super specialized engineers and developers who build the infrastructure and the foundation, the technological tools that everyone's able to use. But it's a democratization of the technology over time that really allows it to flourish and achieve the kind of very robust nature, the texture that it has today. So I think the same thing is probably true in crypto. I think we still have a relatively specialized group of folks who actually pay a lot of attention to crypto, who develop all the technology, but it's only going to be once we get it into the hands of millions of people, or maybe even a billion people, we'll actually see much more rapid development of the tech. And so that draws a picture that right now, there are millions of people in the United States who can't access certain pieces of the crypto ecosystem, right? And so in the US or in other jurisdictions that can access this technology, that can't be a good thing for them being able to harness it and develop over the long term. So I think that, not serving US customers actually allows us to draw a sharp contrast to kind of where the world as it is, and the world as they probably want it to be in the future. And so I think that that's helpful. That's interesting. But I think, that's basically kind of what the picture is.
Oh yeah, thank you. I actually answers this question and the next one I had. So okay, let's move to the next one then. And so we discussed Canada, USA. Now, of course, it's time to ask a question about China. And in your opinion, will crypto adoption in the West change the crypto stance of China? Like, seems that China is the only major jurisdiction left that banned crypto.
Yeah, it's obviously hard to say. I think everyone who's some people have made fortunes betting on what China's going to do, but many people have lost those fortunes also betting on what China's going to do. So it's always hard to tell. But I will say that from my perspective, it seems inevitable that they will sort of join this forward march into using blockchain technology and developing it. Obviously, they've in so many fields, the Chinese have been able to even start late in some spaces and advance very rapidly to reach a similar level of development of other countries. And so I think that a similar thing is likely to happen here. It's hard, and I think it's technology and it's internet. It's really hard to stop. I know that there are developers in China. There are people working on this technology. Of course, the government is very powerful and will slow down things where they can for the moment, but it's going to make I think development is a little bit, to some degree, inevitable. And then, and circling back a little bit on, I think you want to talk a bit about, U.S. and Canada and whether that's a problem, whether we not serving the customers there. It's just that's kind of just a reality for now. But I think that just to put an underline on it, we probably would love to serve U.S. customers in the future. Our founder, Antonio Giuliano, is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the States, and went to Princeton. Our new CEO, Evo, is from New York City and also went to Princeton. And there they met our chief technology officer, Brendan. We're based in New York in SF. I live in Washington, D.C. And so, we don't serve US users. I think that it'll be great one
That's
day
what
to
I'm
be
thinking
able to
about.
do that. Yeah, it'll be great one day to be able to do that. So, but until then, there's so many people all over the world who are hungry for this technology. And so I think we'll be able to keep developing and keep serving users and traders all over the world until we have a day when hopefully everyone will be able to use dYdX.
Yeah, sounds like a great goal. And okay, thank you. So we're getting closer to the end of the prepared questions. So next one is if, of course, this is something you can discuss publicly. Can you share any of dYdX plans for the nearest future, like 6 months to 1 year, something like this, some announcements, teasers, anything?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I think that there's so much happening in the near future for dYdX. And I think that all of our users, our prospective users, the traders all over the world, and crypto enthusiasts who just care about the technological development are going to be really pleased with the great things happening on the dYdX chain. So this fall, we'll see the release of what we're calling dYdX Unlimited. So this will be the biggest upgrade to dYdX since the release of the
Wow.
dYdX standalone chain last year. And so there's going to be a bunch of stuff not seen before in DeFi. So I think the biggest thing first is what we're calling permissionless markets. So there's already some information out there about permissionless markets, and there's some great blog posts on the dYdX website that folks should go check out to get a little bit more detail. But at a high level, users are going to be able to instantly list virtually any market on the dYdX chain without requiring a government's approval. So this has this really interesting kind of liquidity provision system. Users are going to head to dYdX and choose to launch a new market from a essentially unlimited list of markets, which includes not only crypto tokens but also prediction markets. Right, so that's a huge change. People will be able to deposit a certain amount of USDC, which will be determined by the governance system, into what we're calling the Mega Vault. That sounds pretty cool, and it is pretty cool. So the Mega Vault will automatically begin quoting orders on the market that's selected by the user, ensuring instant liquidity for new markets. So the Mega Vault kind of serves as a master liquidity pool that can act as a market maker for all the different dYdX chain markets at once. So dYdX Unlimited will also, that's kind of like the permissionless markets piece, which I think is the biggest sort of new development for the dYdX chain. But dYdX Unlimited will also enable permission keys and wallets for the first time. So for some institutional or really high value traders looking for a more secure or kind of a more custom trading environment, they'll be able to enter in this kind of more limited way, which I think is interesting because it's not maybe not obvious at first. Like, oh, this is open, this is DeFi, but I think what we're going to see in the future is much more flexibility in this space that crypto and DeFi in particular already excel so much at, this customizability, this modularity. And there's going to be different ways for people to use these protocols, flexibilly in kind of the way that they need to. So I think that it'll be interesting. There's probably going to be some third parties. They're going to be able to integrate with dYdX pretty seamlessly in a way that they previously thought was impossible. Yeah, so, and then there's a bunch more coming. So, but I think the permissionless markets in particular, people are going to be excited about.
Yeah, that's just awesome. So I'm personally a big fan of dYdX, and I have an opportunity to use it, what you guys do, and looking forward to trying all these big things that are gonna happen soon. So yeah, thank you very much. Like
Sure.
hot insights. Okay, like the last but not least, traditional question from me is that just could you please share some piece of advice, some wisdom for our viewers, like who are currently trying to enter the crypto or just got into the industry maybe not so long ago. So just some advice, what to start with, what to pay attention for, how to make the most of being involved in all these Web3 oceans.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a big world, and there's so much going on. I think one of the things I like to say is the moment somebody tells you they're a crypto expert, they're probably not, because everything keeps changing so rapidly that it requires the kind of dedication of a constant student to sort of stay on top of what's actually happening within crypto and DeFi in particular. Everything's changing all the time. I think where I have probably have the most insight is, of course, on the policy regulatory side of things, since that's what I focus on. In Washington and looking at international markets as well. I think that say it in the States, but I think this applies to many other jurisdictions. People often feel completely at the they just have to wait on what comes out of the government and regulators. But in reality, I think that the things that they choose to do, the policies they choose to enact, are actually dramatically influenced by everyday people. In particular, crypto users who care about crypto. And so if you do, say in the United States, if you reach out to your congressperson or whoever it is, that really makes a difference. I think people think that it doesn't, but I've had the opportunity to see from working in government before, and from my vantage point now, the ability that direct advocacy really makes. People care deeply about what their citizens, what their constituents, and what their voters care about. And so I think making your voice heard, specifically on really nuanced issues like crypto, it's really important. So, write about it, talk about it, call people, make sure that your voice is heard, and always stay learning.
Thank you very much, Rashan. That's like valuable and insightful. I like the entire interview we had today. I really enjoyed it, and believe that our viewers have the same opinion. Not so many speakers are eager to speak about regulations. It was all about it, like some fresh ideas. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for joining in, and thanks for our viewers for watching till the end. Guys, thumbs up to see Rashan in more episodes. Actually, my time up here. Okay. Have a great day, Rashan. And
You too.
yeah, cheers, everyone. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.